The second item, I looked into putting sidewalks in front of the Cicero Town Hall, and I checked with the state. They don't have any problem with it. They looked at the permit was approved. They're approved of the project. The highway department was going to take care of the preparation and the stone and provide the stone. And I got some quotes, one from a state bid, a state contract, Landco, and it came out to be, because there is a situation over here on the side where we have to be a handicap accessible. So with that, they proposed $6,000, not to exceed $6,000. So I'd like to bring this before the board, and I would like to see their opinion on it and how they feel about it at this time.
I'm glad that she brought this up, only because the planning board requires people to do any type of changes within the town of Cicero to have these sidewalks to nowhere, as we call them. We weren't really setting a good example by not having a sidewalk on our own. So Tracy took it upon herself and found out that it's rather expensive to have a sidewalk basically to nowhere. My personal comment is, due to the economic state that we're all in right now, that I would hold off. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but right now $6,000 in my eyes is a lot of money to put a sidewalk that goes basically nowhere. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but.
Wayne, you've done?
Yes. Being present at all the planning board meetings, we hear that every week from the developers. We ask also. And I mean, it's not really going to help our argument when we ask a developer to do it if we don't have a sidewalk to nowhere.
They always question as to why they need to have a sidewalk in, or
yes,
it's going nowhere, they're not going to walk down it, why do we have to put one in and spend $10,000 extra?
Exactly.
We're putting a lot of emphasis onto improving the landscape, the streetscape, the environment in Brewerton, and we need to pay a little attention to the center of Cicero as well. And I think the planning board's efforts to put in sidewalks is part of that effort, to bring a little more, make it look less like half put together country roads sometimes. So a little at a time, without having to say to people who already don't have a sidewalk, you have to put one in. But as new people come in and as developers come in, I mean, that's their reason for doing it, to upgrade the look of the center of this town. And whether we spend the money now or later, it still needs to be done at some time. And we don't have $6,000 in next year's budget. Do you have $6,000 in your budget right now, Tracy?
I do.
She does. So I think if we're going to be consistent in following our efforts to improve Cicero all the way up and down Route 11, we ought to just go ahead with it, and then the planning board can follow through.
I think that probably that is in the new roads and sewers that we're working on, and I think probably we should hold off on that until such time as we pass that new ordinance on the roads and gutters and so on and so forth.
Oh, you mean the tip-up?
Right. But that's all. The sidewalks are also included in that. So I think that we should finish going through that and decide what we're going to do with that before we pass this. It should all be passed at once, I would think.
Because right now there's no sidewalk ordinance per se on the books, correct, Wayne?
No, there isn't.
Until this legislation is passed, or it's
yeah, well, and I mean, the legislation that we're talking about would basically tell you how to build the sidewalk, not necessarily require it or tell you where to put it, whether it's on the state right of way or on the private property or where it is.
Yeah, Gary and I are actually looking at the draft standards right now, and what it does is say if you're going to construct a sidewalk, what the standards are for doing that. It doesn't necessarily require a sidewalk to be constructed unless perhaps mandated by the planning board.
In fact, all it is a detail, is all that's in the standards.
Tracy, did you plan for this in next year's budget or this year? Or will you have the money next year? Let's put it that way. Because if we wait 2 years, we're that far behind.
Yeah, I think we do have it.
You'll have it next year?
Especially if the highway works with us and they have the availability to do it, and that's what we're discussing.
I think the question is, can we get it done before the first of the year? That's the question.
Lanco said that they would use installation blankets and they would have to do a lot of preparation to be able to do it, but they did feel confident that they could do it by the end of December, and, you know, if Chris feels the same.
Comment, Gene? I can tell.
Just that if we do decide to go ahead with it, we spend this year's funds, it needs to be done and paid for by 12/31 of this year.
Right.
So that's my only concern. I mean, she does have money left in her budget, and it's a town board decision, but it's always, you know, what we spend this year does impact what we have to spend next year. We're all aware of those issues.
Given the extra work that it's gonna go into putting it in this inclement weather, would it be cheaper to do it in the better weather? And is there gonna be any kind of guarantee, since you're putting it in sub-zero weather or in sub-freezing weather, how is it gonna hold up, you know what I mean?
I did propose that question to him, and he said there is gonna be an additional cost because of the way that they have to protect the concrete. And if they do pick a good day to pour it, then he'd have to use insulation blankets to be able to protect it. And then I did ask if it did not come out, if there was a problem in some way, if they could come back in the spring and get, you know, and fix it, if they'll be guaranteed. And he said yes, but there is definitely a cost difference. I'm gonna say around, you know, $1,000.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to bring the information to the board. I looked into it, and, you know, everyone was discussing it, and we wanted to set the example, and I wanted to just bring the information, and it's the town's board decision of how they want to go forward on this project.
Anybody like to go forward, feel free to make a motion.
The only motion I'd make is to wait till the better weather and have it done.
I agree. I'd rather not take a chance when you spend $6,000.
Exactly.
I don't mind that either.
No, I would say that.
Then we've got to fight with them, you know, next year if there's a problem with it.
Anything else, Tracy?
I just wanted on record that we did look into it.
Thank you.